And first of all, I would like to thank you, our sister and assistant in charge, for giving me this opportunity to express my knowledge over the topic child psychology, understanding developmental stage. Now, before we begin, I would like to know that how you are feeling today. In one word, relaxed, tired. What else?
Frustrated.
Frustrated. Anything else? Okay. So exhausted. So you are getting multiple answers onto this, right? The thing is that before a few days back, I was having some viva onto this. So the person who was taking viva, she asked me that, sir, what profession you are into? So I told the interviewer that I am a teacher. The person smiled, long smile. I don't know what she was expecting. So when I answered, she smiled. Then she asked me again, sir, which subject? I told maths. Her smile was longer. Then she asked me one question. Are you a good teacher? The question struck my mind that what actually the interviewer is trying to know by the virtue of good teacher, what does it mean? So instead, now she is interviewing me. I cannot ask her question. So I was expecting that by the question and answers, I will get my answer that what she is trying to prove by the word this good teacher. So she told that what proves you to be good teacher. So I told her that I used to explain the topics, formulas, chapters very effectively in my class. So she told that are we able to understand them? Well, I think so, that they are understanding. So how do you evaluate that whether they are understanding your topic or not? So I told that by their marks, by how their success being there in their life, this is the things that how I can assess that whether they are understanding or not. Then the next and final question of that interview, she asked me, do you understand them that they are understanding your topics or not? As it was an honest answer needed to be given, so I told, I don't know. The problem with teacher arises that we are teaching a good teacher. I mean, by all this discussion, I come to conclusion that a teacher is said to be a good teacher if he or she is effective in making understanding the chapter, the topic, the concept, the knowledge that we do have. If we fail to understand our child, our students, that whatever knowledge we have, what we are trying to make them understand, if we fail to do so, then I think that it's a failure for being a good teacher. Otherwise, we are just simply teaching them. We are not making them understand the things. And psychology itself is a very vast thing. It's a very vast, it has no end. The more deeper you go, the more theory, the more knowledge you will get into this. And child psychology is one of its aspects, it's one of its branch, where we need to understand the students, where we can deal with them, that how and why, most appropriately, why they are behaving in this manner. There is for every effect, there has to be cause. If we all are sitting here, then we must have applied in this school at a particular time. Right? Do you agree? For that reason, we all are here. So whatever you do, whatever we are doing right now, it will have an effect in the future. So for the students' activity and all, their performance, their activity, their behavior, their pattern of talking, their conversation, everything, there has to be a reason. And most of the time, being as a teacher, what we are doing, we are just judging with their actions. If they are having any response, if they are giving any response, we are not bothered about most of the time. I am not blaming anyone, but most of the time what happens that we won't bother or we are giving less priority to the stimulus. There must have been some reason to provoke them to do something. If any student is found to be fighting in the class, then there must have been some reason. But instead of that, knowing the reason, What we are doing? We are just slapping, we are scolding, we are abusing, and that's it. But I think that by doing so, sometimes everyone who is into this profession, we cannot be called ourselves as a good teacher. So in order to be a good teacher, this psychology aspect has to be understood most appropriately, not with our own senses, but there are some theories that has been given by some educationists. And if we go to the history, then you will find that most of the education psychologists are actually from the education background. So with this, if we begin our sessions, child psychology, that I believe this will help you to understand more into the child psychology and what are the stages that takes place to go through one by one. So, psychology meaning, it is a scientific study of the mind and the way that people behave. Psychology includes the study of conscious and unconscious phenomena including feelings and thoughts. When we talk about responding anything, then there are actually three types of our memory works, like conscious, unconscious, and between these two we have subconscious level. Conscious, we can easily judge that we are being attentive in the class, and unconscious, if you are asking any students, then he is not being able to answer the question, then that can be called as a unconscious. But between these two, suppose if I ask you that okay, tell me your phone number. The phone number may not be you thinking of. You may not be thinking of your phone number, but if I ask you, you may be telling it randomly, and that is to be correct. This is what comes to subconscious part of the brain. We used to scold the students, we are asking them questions and they are not able to answer. We scold them when we are paying attention. Why you are looking outside the window? It's not like that they are distracted about something. Even if they are unconscious in their mind, they are paying same amount of attention to somewhere. We, with the help of psychology, all this theory, if we are able to understand this thing, then we can generalize those attention inside our classroom. That is where the psychology will help. Otherwise, it's like all of us have got 24 hours in a day. Somebody is using it sleeping, study, and somebody is using it business and everything. Their development is different at different level. Similar way, every child has got same level of attentivity, but they are using it somewhere else. If we are not knowing that how we can use it to divert their mind into our classroom, then it's our loss. Because whatever knowledge we are giving to 40 students or 50 students, then if it is so, then only 30 of the students will be getting it. But we have put the same effort for all those 40 students. So, this is all about the psychology meaning. Next is your child psychology. It's little bit different from this psychology that it comes within that. It is the science that deals with the mental power or interaction between the conscious and subconscious elements in a child. Now, before we proceed, if I ask you a question, no math teacher please. 5 minus 6 plus 6 divided by 3. How much will be this? No math teacher. 0. Alright, 0. 12. 1. 6. 5. 5. Alright. 5. Okay, let us see another question. Okay, no English teacher. Can we arrange it? We don't have any holiday, let me tell you. It's just a simple word. Alright, so the first answer is obviously it is to be 5, and the second answer is we have a holiday this Saturday. Now, what you actually did? You must have followed here the Woodmass rule, right? 6 divided by 3 minus 2 plus 5. Woodmass rule, right? Then in case of this one also we have this subject plus verb plus object, and that's the rule, right? So how you made it? You should know the rule, right? Same way, same pattern it works with the psychology also. If we are not knowing the rules and regulations, the theories, what actually behind why any student is very aggressive in nature, why students, those who go to class standard, especially from 7, 8, 9, 10, why they are becoming so aggressive? Because in bookish knowledge it's only mentioned that when the secretion of testosterone hormone begins, they have this physical changes. But we are very much or very less bothered about the psychological changes. One of the great factors that happens in case of boys is aggressiveness. That will happen. That has to happen. Otherwise, if it's like if a baby is born, then if the baby is not crying, then that is considered to be abnormal. Same way, those students, especially for boys, those who are going to standard 7, 8, 9, 10, they have to take risk. Otherwise, their development is not being done properly. So the thing is that if again the psychological aspect, if we go to the psychological aspect, then there is a reason, and we need to learn how to cope up with that, how we need to handle with them as a teacher. Because being as a teacher, being as educators, we have some restrictions and we can do so many things with them. So, like we discussed, that why the psychology is required at upper level, it explains the behavior pattern of any child, any person, any human being. It will discuss, it will let you know that why this kind of thing is happening with us or with any humans. We can easily predict that this is normal or this is abnormal things. Then improve decision making. Once we understand the capability, the thinking process, how they are managing the things, if we put into them under some situation, then how they are managing the things, we can put them into that level or that kind of competitions where they can improve that skill. Producing effective outcome, then understanding individual, it really helps to understand each and every individual. Then managing human instincts. In case of this human instinct, there are so many things that comes like fear, anger, teamwork, all such kind of things will comes under this managing human instincts. And with context to this teaching learning, it creates a platform to understand better that how learning takes place from person to person. How we initiate a lesson. Now, if we talk about this person to person, if we are going to any doctor and if the doctor has to see 40 patients, all of them are suffering with fever, what the doctor will do? Now, doctor has a limited period of time to be in his clinic. 40 patients, one doctor, 5 minutes. Fever, all of them are having fever. I think paracetamol 500, right? So the same thing happens with teachers also. We are following same method for all these 40 students. We are not, we need to give this individual attention that is actually required at the present moment of time. Because when we have learned about the individual differences, so this transfer of knowledge has to be done and has to be different from each and every student. So that is where we are lagging. But we have to keep in our mind that this is the way that at least 5 of the students, a particular group of students will understand in this manner and the rest of will understand in this manner. We cannot impose same method for each and every student here. Then how to initiate a lesson, how to motivate or catalyze the students' ability in right direction, better planning and interaction. Understand problem of psychosomatic origin. The psychosomatic actually it means with the mental disorder that actually comes from the social environment. If any students is dealing with their classmates, what we do? You sit alone. Now that particular student is distracted or marginalized from rest of the class. Will that particular student will be able to develop himself like rest of the students? That is where again it's a question. So we have to punish them, but rather than punishing them, it's better to use positive and negative reinforcement. That we'll discuss later. Then modify child developmental process, and most importantly of the psychological aspect of development of any child is to change, influence or control behavior to make positive, constructive, meaningful and lasting changes in people's life and to influence their behavior for the better. Can anyone tell me what does it signify or why? In your word, because what I have written that's in my mind. What you understood from it? Because I have been only speaking that why this is important. Can anyone elaborate onto this? Most importantly, the beta has been kept within the developmental comma. Can anyone speak please? Thank you, miss. Welcome.
Basically, it means understanding the psychology of the child. Then, accordingly, we need to change our perception regarding the child and then deal with that student. That is what is the behavior
Yeah.
changes.
Yeah, exactly. It is somehow we cannot ask every student to score 100 out of 100. But if any student is scoring 40, we need to make sure that he is going to score 50 next time. This is what it means in their psychological aspects also. So the better word would be with respect to his development and growth. Now, theories of child psychology. There has been, I have read about this theories where it was mentioned regarding this child psychology, and it gives insight into some wider view of this. The first, it has been firstly divided into two groups. First group is behavioral learning, how the child is learning through behaviors. Then second one is psychodynamic. It is the psychological aspect of the children's behavior, how they are learning through this psychological aspect. So one by one, if we see this classical conditioning by even it was done on this classical, mainly based with this law and stimulus response test. That way, any child has to be do something good. Then it was we need to provide him some stimulus, and once the response has been achieved, then we need to take it out. This was the classical conditioning. Then operative conditioning by P.F. Skinner with providing some award. That is award in the form of that rat reaching the way and getting food. Then social learning theory by Albert Bandura. This was based on observation things. Sometimes you might have seen that any child, he or she, if has seen some action movie, like let us take we all are 19 TVs here, not even less than that. Shaktiman. After watching Shaktiman, what we used to do? Now nobody asked us. Did anyone ask us to rotate? But we did it. Why? Because we have seen something and we are imitating, we are copying that thing. So that was explained by this P.F. Skinner that most of the things we don't teach students. We don't ask students to use any kind of abusive word or getting involved into fight or any kind of all those wrong things. But they are learning, they are observing, they are doing it. So this was explained by this P.F. Skinner under social learning. Sorry, Albert Bandura under social learning. Then hierarchy of needs by Maslow. I think Abraham Maslow. So this hierarchy of needs was explained by him based on this hierarchy mentioned where he mentioned about the psychological needs and social needs, love, caring, and all those things. Where each and every need has to be fulfilled for proper development. Then psychodynamic under this cognitive development, Jean Piaget here explained the age factor like SPPF, like sensory motor development ages and all those things here mentioned this. Psychosexual theory, whether this is psychosexual or psychodynamic, it actually it's not something with the adult age group. It is something very small child. When you are holding even a small child, then you might see that if you are holding someone's father, the child is only 6 months, then he will try to separate him. It's like that, that's my father, that's my mother. You cannot take, or you cannot put his hand to her hand. What is that? That was explained by the psychosexual. Why it happens? Because even the kid is small, or even if the kid is 10 years or 15 years, they have a sense of love, care, desire, need, want that happens for the beginning, from birth to death. But it takes different forms at the different stages of life. Then the last one is your psychosocial theory by Erickson. This psychosocial theory by Erickson, he has divided the developmental stage of this life of this psychological development of any child into 8 stages, where he mentioned that what actually happens throughout each and every stage. Like from birth to 2 years or 10, half years, 1.5 years, there are some particular changes where particular students or particular child will be judged between two factors. For example, let me show you the video, next then I can elaborate this properly in the next one.
Okay, ready?
Please skip this part, don't fix anything. This was not meant.
3, go. Go. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Just go. There you go. Say, there's nothing that I can't do when I put my mind to it. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, go.
Alright. So the very first stage that begins from birth to 1.5 years or 2 years is between trust and distrust. You might have seen that a baby who is just born is given to her mother's lap when he is being taken out of the womb. This is the reason, there has to be some reason why this happens. Or when a baby cries, generally if the mother holds the baby, small baby, then he or she stops crying. The reason behind is that it has a psychological reason also. Scientific reason has been proved that when the baby is inside the womb of the mother, it has a space, a particular type of chemical that has to be found inside the particular mother, that mother's womb only. And when the mother is holding that baby, the same type of body smell when the baby perceives from the mother, the just born baby feels like that he is still the same place where he was before only. Therefore, that baby stops crying. So, the very first stage comes between this trust and distrust, where a baby starts to know that whom to trust and whom to not. And at the very first stage, the primary role is being played by the mother, because other people will be also the part of the development of the baby, but the primary role is being played by the mother. So, irrigation stages of psychological development: trust versus distrust, that lasts from birth to 1.5 years. Then next is autonomy versus shame and doubt. In this case, what happens? Autonomy. A child, when he or she started to come to school, then if he is doing all the activity on its own, then he will feel like under autonomous. You must have this actually words with the like autonomous, that self-doubt. I can do all the things on my own. This is what it means, autonomy. And if, for example, if the child is not being able to control his body in the public, then he will be shamed and doubt that the others are able to control his physical, his motor activity throughout the time. But if I am not able to stop my pee, or even if I am peeing on my bed, then he will feel this shame and doubt. Then initiative versus guilt. When the child already started to come to school, now when he is getting into some activities, if he has got the chance to take initiative, then that's okay. But suppose, Father, I want to go play, will you join me? No. This no word has to be used for the particular group of child at a particular age, where they are taking this no word in a negative way. Because if you are saying yes, then that's good. Then that is the initiative that they have taken and they are finishing it. The same thing happens with the classroom also. Sir, I want to say the answer. But our mind is that, no, you don't. I think that at this place, we have to give equal opportunity to all the students, no matter whether they are saying right or wrong. Even if they are wrong, this initiative that they have taken, it has to be built up. If not, then again they will be going to this guilt. Okay, we are not getting the chance, next time you won't raise your hand. Even if they are knowing the answer, they won't raise their hand. Then industrious versus inferiority. This is almost same to this, because this 3 to 11 years, it is little bit there is difference between these two. Then identity versus confusion. When we go out, I mean, if you all are here, we must have got some roles to do. We must have got some responsibility. We have specific. I mean, we do have our own identity. Likewise, for children also, they are having some own identity, where they will be treated as son, where they have to be treated somebody as, I mean, as a friend. So this thing they inculcate between this 11 to 18 years. And suppose if any child, any boy, he is not talking properly to his father, or if suppose if he is talking to his father like a friend and using the same kind of word that he used to, so his identity is being lost there. And if he is not getting his own identity, this identity has to be inculcated during this age, because that child understand at this particular age. Then intimacy versus isolation. Child throughout the age of this growth, they have to be involved into love and care and affection, desire, bonding, all this kind of words. Now, it's not that has to happen in older adulthood or something. Generativity versus stagnation. This actually happens in 40 to older adulthood, where they are actually trying to generalize the ideas, their life experience, whatever they have done till the age of 40 years. Whether whatever they have understood, whatever their experiences, whether that was worth or not, or whether that will help them in the late adulthood or not. The integrity versus despair. This actually deals with the topic. If the person has become old and now he realizes that whatever I have done, whether I feel proud about it or not, whether my life that I lived till 60 years or 65 years or till my day, whether that is worth or not. If it was good, then it will be into integrity. Otherwise, if you feel low about it, then that will be converting into despair. Then, mainly, these topics are so much that we cannot finish in 1 hour. That is very true. But we'll try to focus on the main things that what actually these are. Then again, one video that I find out that while we are building up the psychological development, there are more than these theories. It's not enough only, but we as a teacher are not only responsible for the psychological development. Students are coming from different background. Parents are considered to be the first teacher, parents, society, then teachers, then school, their peer friends and everyone. So I found a small video from YouTube. I think that this will explain the role of parents.
जो भी काम आज करना ना उसे अभी करने की आदत डालो, ओके?
You are still writing to do a move.
Family that is together stays together.
ये आज की भी तकलीफ होगा।
वहाँ संगीत सम्राट मेरा 5 महीने बचे और मैं पिछले 15 दिन से गाने के सिवाय सब कुछ कर रहा हूँ। उस कपड़े धो रहा हूँ, कभी झाड़ू मार रहा हूँ, कभी नाच रहा हूँ, कभी सब्जियां काट रहा हूँ। और ये वहाँ क्या है ये सब?
यस। नाचने से ताल की समझ बनती है। जब पैर ताल समझने लग गई, तब सुर भी अपने आप ताल में बैठने लग गई। संसार में हर चीज मिल रही है। अगर संगीत सीखना तो हर छोटे बड़े काम की सुर, लय और ताल को ढूंढो। फिर तेरा हर वक्त तेरा धड़कन होगा।
I need a new laptop. Not only do I स्टूडेंट में सोच है।
सोचे सुना कितना अच्छा मैनेजर बोला इसने, क्या वर्ड्स बोले तुमने यार।
She writes an essay even on full false questions these days. Shut up, you shut up.
अरे सर बस प्लीज। हाँ what?
Hey, ठीक है।
No more. Okay. Family that is together stays together. Okay? ये एक healthy family का नियम होना चाहिए।
हमारे साथ स्पेशल क्लास और अगर मेरे स्पेशल क्या होता तो आप तो सभी मेरे तरफ थे और अगर मुझे हिंदू होता तो
मेरी गाँव से होता तो
क्या
अब नहीं मतलब फोकस एक सब्जेक्ट में क्यों रहता है, जब तक गम ना आ जाए फैमिली में से कोई मर नहीं जाए तब तक हम सब लोग साथ में बैठ के खाना खा सकते हैं। नो मोर फैमिली
पापा एक मिनट बचा है प्लीज
फैमिली
आप यहाँ आएंगे घंटी में रहेंगे और मैं दरवाजा खोलूंगा रख दूंगा, मेरी मर्जी है, मेरा घर है, ठीक है, और मैं खोलूंगा, लेकिन मुझे मालूम है कि खोलते मेरे ऊपर चढ़ जाएंगे, थप्पड़ मारने की कोशिश करेंगे, पर मैं भी नहीं डरूंगा क्या?
हर माँ यही चाहती है कि उसकी बेटी उसे सिर्फ एक माँ की तरह कभी कभी जीनियस की तरह भी देखे। थोड़ी मैथ्स हो जाए। किसी ने कुछ खाया नहीं क्या? आवाज ही नहीं आ रही। Okay, so today I am going to introduce you to Miss Rewarding number 142857. बड़ी स्पेशल। कैसे बताओ? 142857 into 1 is 142857, correct? 142857 into 2 is 285714. 142857 into 3 is 42857 and 142857 is 5.
Alright, there is some scenario regarding this. How do you balance or the practically if you think nobody becomes parent after having any PhD degree, then how to become parent? They has to learn that how to become parent or a good parent. Unlike we have got some degree and become teacher, but for parent it doesn't work. And why I'm saying this thing, because some of you are already parents here, that it's like placing to be parents. But the most important part that comes from is that sometimes parents don't want to understand. They have this dilemma that whatever the way they were treated, they will treat the same, in the same way their children. But they have to understand that whatever the other factors are for the development of any child, then that comes at the later stage. School, teacher, friends, that comes at later part. But parents, they are the first teacher of their child. So parents plays a very significant role in the development of their child. So with this, I can conclude that they need to influence through interaction, identification, and transmission of family's story that actually motivate them in positive way that this is our family background, so you have to come to this institution or you have to do something like this. Social, culture, physical, mental, spiritual development, positive attitude and acceptance. Sometimes parents, we have seen here number of parents, they actually don't want to accept their child as they are. Why so? Because they have very high expectation from their child. It's okay to have a low IQ child in your family. Let them be as they are doing. But no, sometimes it takes a very long conversation to make them understand that whatever the child is, let them be like that. Positive and negative reinforcement. When we talk about this positive and negative reinforcement, let me tell you, sometimes most of the time we feel like the negative reinforcement is something punishing a child. Can anyone explain between this positive and negative reinforcement? What do we exactly understand from this positive and negative? What is it? It is not to be confused with punishment and reward.
I'll give an example.
Yeah.
Actually, Actually, when the birthdays are there of the students, they come and give the sweets. I think I collected 12 sweets and that I was in class 10. I was taking revision. So they were not answering the question, but as soon as I told I'll give you sweets, they started giving the answers, recalling whatever they knew, they started. But as soon as the chocolate got finished, again the response was zero. So I think giving sweets was a type of negative reinforcement.
Yep, that's correct. We can go more into depth of it with another example. If any child is not cleaning his or her room, then what we do? Clean it. Even if we go to the classes, sometimes during my time when I was in school, I mean learning, not teaching. Then I was appointed in my class and I put the names, those who were sorting. And then the teacher came, I still remember because that thought has struck my mind and still inside my mind. Then the teacher, I told that sir, this students were sorting, so I have written the names. That teacher asked me, it was Sinha sir. So he asked me, okay, you have written the name? That's good. Did you, have you done something so that they don't have to shout? He asked the question twice. I said, no sir. What actually he was trying to say that I think that will deals with this negative reinforcement that if any child is not cleaning up his room, then parents, okay, if you don't clean your room, you won't go outside, you stay at home. Now that has comes as a negative reinforcement that we have introduced something to inculcate some good activity into him. Sometimes we used to make any students stand on the table or in front of the door or in front of the board. It is actually, it also has some psychological aspect. We are doing it, but we need to understand that what kind of punishment has to be given at what time. When we are making any students stand in front of the wall, it is actually we are putting his all those activity or hyperactivity of the child towards the center of something where he will concentrate his mind into something. But when we are making any students stand on the table or bench, it is actually to observe the surrounding. So every punishment has to be given meaningful. The role of school, it's not like parents has some roles. Apart from parents, school has also some important things to do. Revision of rules and regulations from time to time. Now, with the whether that is CBSE, ICSE or JAC board, whenever we say, then it has been said that all this student has to be passed till class 8. I was discussing the same matter with one of my colleagues, from other school. Then he said that school has got to be promote each and every student till class 8. But what after this class 8? I told my problem that there are the difficulties that I usually face to take all the average teaching learning method for average students. So he said that what they used to do, they used to raise the level of the question. Raise the level of question in such a manner that they get into the inside or level question where those who are very poor, they will eventually fail. Then it's very pointed out or it's filtered out. So like setting up tough questions, or there are some other rules questions that school can set up. Then proper scholastic and co-scholastic report, positive behavior towards everyone, supportive to each and every individual, holistic environment. This holistic environment actually deals with the all around, irrespective of their socio-culture, their financial, their background, where do they belong, considering, giving exception to all those things. Then promoting every religion and culture, allocating required responsibilities, appointing professional counsel who can actually guide students time to time. Then there is a 3R rule that actually deals with research. Research in the sense that a particular library can have lots and lots of these books where it will be dealing with, we are not doing any particular type of research here like scientists used to do, but we can deal with that why a particular instrument is behaving in this manner. So there are some theories onto it, which are actually written in the book. We cannot make our own assumption to come to any theory. We cannot make our own assumption. There are already theories given. So if there are such books, then that will be helpful for teachers. Then remuneration and rewards in the form of, that is words, actions or any kind of gestures. Role of society, nature versus nurture. Nature versus when we talk about nature. Now, even if any shade, let us consider any ground shade, if that has got soil and water, then only that will plant. Is it or not? Any particular shade, whether it is apple, orange, anything, is it or not? So the nature has provided the instruments to be aggressive, but until and unless that student, if he or she is not getting that proper involvement or proper place or proper guidance to inculcate those values, it is not going to, inculcate those things. Then that this battle against nature and nurture goes on and on throughout the life. Then socialization versus social psychology, social cultural environment. They are actually being affected from this. We as educators have lots and lots to play into their life. Very important into their lives. But we also have some challenges over it. What are they? Understanding the different learning challenges by the students, lack of one-to-one conversation, vulnerability to the facts. Like I said, that if we go through the books that has been already mentioned what is there, we are not supposed to make our own assumption. We need to know the facts. Family background of his students, lack of funding, being encouraging and motivating under challenging times, flexibility, time management, pressure, burnout. These are some other factors where a teacher has to go through toward the planning of all these things. The psychological assessment. The very first thing of the psychological assessment is that it is in qualitative in nature. It's not quantitative that out of 10 I will give you 10, this students I have given you 10, I have given you 5, I have given you 7. It's not like that. It has to be qualitative in the sense that how far it deals with how. So the thing is that there are certain theories that actually explains that how can our assess particular students. These are actually works in the form of interviews, standardized tests, questionnaires, activities like individual group where we can observe them and we get to know that whether the students is behaving in what manner. Conducting 16 years sociometry, memory retention test, and there are so many tests like this. Time to time, one thing that I used to do, there are two things that I will begin to notice. I was in some school like kindergarten. So how they used to take the admission of the small kids. They have a large playground and in the name of admission, what they have done, they have made the students to play. There are lots of, what you call, class and all, they are playing theirs. So I asked them what actually you are playing here. So the management, the management, they actually say that they are actually trying to assess the sensory organs of the students, whether they are performing well or not. The management just want to see that whether the students are able to walk, run, talk, or communicate properly or not. This was their agenda. Then, this actually assesses the intelligence of any child, achievement, memory retention, how far sometimes we know the answer, but students try to take some time to frame the answer. That comes under the retention power of any students, and how much time they are taking to recall any answer. So there are different types of intelligence also. When we talk about this intelligence, then that will comes again under the Gardner's theory that has 8 stages. So there are so many types of tests we can conclude. Another thing that I used to do is that sometimes when I feel that the class is going boring or some students are not responding well, then one thing that I used to do, I used to give them random words. Random words like night, morning, day. What actually pointed out is that I mentioned a word, fear. Then one student actually written their crowd. That particular student is afraid of crowd. So this way I try to point it out that who is having or who is in actually need of some kind of help or guiding something. So I talk to that students particularly. So this kind of things we can also do in our classroom. Randomly to So that comes under this tests only. So with this, I end up my session. One last thing that I would like to say is that in order to be a good teacher, that is what I believe, is that rather than teaching, we need to focus on understanding what we are teaching them. And more than that, we also need to understand that whatever we are teaching them, whether they are understanding or not. Not only with the marks, but there are some other ways that we can learn or we can know into this vast area of the psychology. Thank you.